So recently I just posted my review and comparison of the Mi 10 Pro up against the Mi 10, and I decided to make a separate video that will actually contain some of what I compared with the cameras. So this camera comparison, we're going to take a look and see if that 8-element lens on the main camera versus the 7-element lens is going to make a big difference with low light performance and even in daytime stills. Right now you're looking of course at the front facing cameras, and you can see there's a difference here in quality and exposure. I find that it's overexposing more actually on the Mi 10 Pro. So this is just down to software because it got the same hardware with the front facing cameras. Now obviously there's a big difference with the rear cameras when it comes to 2x optical zoom for your portraits and then the 5x optical. So we'll take a look at that. And then macro, you get macro with the ultra wide, the 20 megapixel ultra wide with the Mi 10 Pro. So yes, it does have a better camera setup, but just how much better is what we'll find out in this camera comparison. This is ultra wide video on both of them. Stabilization is very good. Perhaps maybe a little bit more details, maybe slight difference because of the increased megapixel count on the Mi 10 Pro here with the ultra wide cameras. Stability on both is very good. Let's pan around here. You do see some noticeable stutter on them, which is not great. I'm seeing this also on other phones as well with electronic image stabilization. So the rear cameras, they are 108 megapixels and they're both identical here. And I've noticed the stabilization on both seems to be pretty much equal, as you'd expect to be the same here. Now the focus, we do have that IR, infrared assisted focus on the Pro model. I'm not actually seeing too much of a difference between that and the normal model. I mean, it could be slightly better, but I'm not really seeing it. Now once you start recording in 4K 30 frames per second here, or 8K or even 4K 60, you cannot swap over to the ultra wide or 2x or anything. It won't let you do that. Hopefully they can change that with a firmware update. So now with the super steady mode enabled, I'm going to run up the stairs here. And you can see it's quite steady, but still not quite as good as the Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus that I have. Make sure you check my comparison against the Mi 10 and the S10 Plus to see the difference there in the super steady modes. Low light, 4K, 30 frames per second. So the sun just set. It actually looks a lot brighter than it really is. And stabilization on both of them, yeah, it does not look as good, of course, now because these conditions are difficult. Even with a 108 megapixel sensor. Ultra wide, it looks like the Pro might actually capture a tiny bit more light to me. When you look in the distance there, you can see the masts of the boats where it's very hard or harder to make out on the standard Mi 10. summarize here that yes, you definitely get much more flexibility with the Mi 10 Pro's cameras, of course, because you've got the 2x optical. That is great for portraits, getting in closer, giving much more detail, and the photos just generally look better. Now with the main sensor, I can see there's actually a bit of a difference. Now I don't know whether it's just because of software or it's the difference in the lens, the higher quality lens in the Mi 10 Pro could be the reason why we get more details, but I think it's more on the software side of things. It just seems to be a little bit more tweaked there. Now front-facing cameras, they're both quite poor actually, I think, especially with video, because you don't have any electronic image stabilization, and that is a real shame. I hope that Xiaomi does add this in a future up-and-coming firmware update. Now there is apparently an update on March the 5th coming to even make the cameras better, more than what they are right now, and I will probably take another look at them again when that is out. So let me know in the comments, which one do you think was actually better there in low light? I think the clear winner is actually the Mi 10 Pro 2 in terms of low light. It seemed to get just more details and capture even more in the shadows than just the standard version. But is it worth that extra? I think it is if you're going to be using the ultra wide camera, the portrait camera, and that 5x optical all the time. But if you don't plan to use the cameras that much, you don't take a lot of portrait shots, then still save your money and just go with the standard Mi 10 edition.